Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the narrative out in the field. Here today we're at the event Suis Muslim, where we have a number of speakers including Abdur Raheem Green from IERA, Muazzam Beg, Abdullah Andalusi, Mohammad Jahangir and Imran Wahid. We're going to be talking about many things, starting from prevent strategies, the CTS bill, which is the counter-terrorism bill, which is now going through Parliament. We're going to be talking about what can Muslims do, practical steps, all kinds of things. And there have been some wonderful talks here. Hopefully, inshallah, we're going to be looking forward to these. And hopefully, we're going to have some good interviews for you lined up.
Well, I think first of all, the wider Muslim community needs to understand what this bill is, what effect it's going to have on them, and they need to understand that this isn't anymore about violence. This is about normal, everyday comments that people may make, Islamic activities, whether they grow a beard or whether they change their lifestyle to become more Islamic. These may all be potential signs of radicalization or extremism, and they could be referred. They need to engage with their local authorities, with their wider society, those people who are implementing this prevent, and tell them why they're unhappy with it and why they reject this analysis.
Just on that point, I think it was something which you mentioned in the talk, but I would like to elaborate on it. Can the common Muslim or the common person who really maybe not political at all, has never involved himself in any political organization or an Islamic organization, are they affected by this as well?
Everybody's affected. From now on, your GP, your optician, your social worker, your nursery teacher, your school teacher, they will all be looking at Muslims, or they have a legal duty to look at Muslims to identify signs of non-violent extremism, which is undefined, and to refer people if they think they're a risk to a panel. So yes, everybody is now affected. In fact, it's been going on since 2007. Since 2007, 4,000 people have been referred to something called the Channel Programme for extremism. Now, that was when it wasn't a duty it was voluntary, and it was only a policy. Now it's a duty. You can expect that number to triple, even get higher. And it could be your child tomorrow, it could be you. So if you're not concerned, you should be.
Three things we can do, quite easy. I think the first thing is what I would call engagement. I think it's really important for the Muslim community to engage in a massive way with the wider community. I mean, we need a paradigm shift in the way that we relate to the wider non-Muslim community. Now, it's very interesting that in Germany, the places that have the biggest support for these, they call them the pinstripe Nazis, right, are actually the cities with the smallest percentage of Muslim immigrant communities, and the people who are most against it are the ones with the largest numbers of Muslims. That's actually a really good thing, because it shows that when Muslims are actually engaging, and when non-Muslims have Muslims amongst them and they know them on a day-to-day basis, they don't have those negative feelings, right? One of the things we do really badly is we don't complain. And actually every community, every masjid, every single Muslim should be phoning the BBC, Channel 4, whoever it is. If there's some issue, there's some problem, we should be writing, we should be phoning, we should be flooding their email accounts and making our voice heard. If there's one message I just like to keep saying, is that every Muslim has to be an activist. We all have to be activists. We have to raise our children to be activists, and this is the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? We know from the Hilf al-Fudail, that there were things that the Prophet, they all agreed to fight injustice and poverty and certain things. There were people who were concerned, and the Prophet said, and if people ask me to join it again, I join it again. And this shows that there are certain common things that we can join hands with people to fight injustices and wrongdoing, whether they're Muslim or not Muslim. And that's the sunnah of our Prophet. We should all be involved in that.
So how's the event gone according to your expectations? Has it met your expectations?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, we only had 1 week's worth of advertisement. In fact, we had to try and organise all of this within 2 weeks, because obviously we had the insults against the Prophet ﷺ. We wanted the Muslim community to respond in a particular way and be able to understand that, you know, you can't let the insults just simply fade away and ignore them, because it sets a very unhealthy precedent. At the same time, we also wanted to educate our community about some of the growing dangers that they're going to face, not only to their beliefs but also to the way they're going to practice their deen within the UK, such as the introduction of the CTS bill and the way that they're using the CTS bill on the back of the insults against the Prophet ﷺ, as though almost like saying, well, we have to do that because otherwise they're going to go after, they're going to attack, you know, Paris or Charlie Hebdo, these kinds of terrorism, etc.
Okay. So in light of this, you're from the group Hizb ut-Tahrir. So in light of this, what have some of the repercussions been on Hizb ut-Tahrir? Some of the ideas that you hold can be deemed sometimes controversial by, you know, people from this sort of background. What has been the response towards yourself?
I think what it is what you're finding when we had the Panorama program a few weeks ago about British Islam. They didn't even mention Hizb ut-Tahrir. They didn't even mention Cage either, or Muazzin Beg. What they went for are probably the middle of the road type Muslims, and that's because what they have shown and demonstrated is that their target is not just a particular group or a particular, you know, section. Neither is it just simply those people advocate violence. What they're going for is anything which is mainstream Islam, anything that seems to upset their liberal secular, you know, balance that they have within society. So yeah, obviously Hizb ut-Tahrir advocates for a call for Khilafah in the Muslim world. It believes and articulates the call for Sharia law, you know, within the Muslim world, and it calls for Muslims in this community, in this society, to hold on to its identity and engage in da'wah with non-Muslims. That's probably a narrative that the government doesn't want to hear. What they want to hear is groups and organisations saying we need to be British, secular, abandon some of the values of Islam, and, you know, become, you know, indistinguishable, like the Christians or the Hindus have become indistinguishable with their faith and their belief within society. So you're starting to see the Ummah becoming aware of the problem, which is good, and that's one of the key reasons why we hold this event. And also they start to understand that they need to respond not only in the short term, which we maybe can discuss, but also in the long term as well.
So I think one of the messages that we were getting from this event was that it may be a difficult time ahead of us. To the people who are watching this and who may be affected or worried about this, what message do you have for them?
I think there's a few things. I think with regards to like the CTS bill, it's probably inevitable that it's going to come in. But what we have to do is we have to be proactive in our engagement on 2 levels, or even 3 levels, I would say. Firstly, to the Muslim community, we've got to develop alternatives of safeguarding our community's ideas and values, our Islam, that identity is very important, because that's what they're actually after. It's not really a legislation or, you know, economic, or it's not these types of considerations. What they're trying to do is they are using styles to take away the deen from the Muslim community. That's what they want to do. Secondly, is that our community's got to become open facing, yeah, so it's got to be outward rather than inward. It's got to go out there, engage with the wider community and wider society, break down those myths and stereotypes. And thirdly, is what we can do on a practical level is create a separation between central government and local government execution. So, for example, you have schools that really don't have a clue about what extremism is, but they're told you've got to have it in your prevent program. You can have teachers, you can have mosque community leaders, the Muslim community actually saying, hold on, this is complete nonsense. In fact, some brothers I know, they did this in Stoke. They did a similar situation, actions in Bradford when they tried to bring out a madrasa curriculum, rubber stamped by the government, called a Nasiha project. They went to the mosque and they created that separation. It became, they couldn't implement it. Yeah, so the prevent strategy becomes impractical on the local level. That's what we need to do politically, because you're not really going to change central government's position on these views because they're ideologically driven. But on a practical day-to-day level, with regards to policing, local authority, social workers, teachers, headmasters, they've got to implement this. If you can refute that and destroy the moral foundation, intellectual foundations, then effectively they're unable to execute what the government agenda wants.
Okay, so we've had some wonderful interviews, we've had some great insights from the speakers here at the Suis Muslim event, discussing freedom of speech, prevent, the CTS bill. It looks bleak, but however, don't despair. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always there. I'm going to sign out, inshallah. Jazakumul khairan. Until next time, assalamu alaikum.